Welcome back to Heart of a Soldier, where the courage of our service members meets the unknown, and where the frozen wilderness of Alaska holds secrets that challenge everything we believe about duty, honor, and sacrifice. Today's story follows Major Lisa Thompson, a search and rescue pilot whose routine mission uncovers a conspiracy that reaches to the highest levels of military command. Sometimes the greatest danger doesn't come from the enemy, it comes from those we trust the most. The Alaskan wilderness stretched endlessly below Major Lisa Thompson's HH-60 POV Hawk as she navigated through the late afternoon darkness. Snow-covered mountains rose like ancient sentinels against the Arctic sky, their peaks disappearing into low-hanging clouds that made visibility treacherous. Rescue 1. This is Elmendorf Tower. We're showing you approximately 15 miles northeast of the last known position of the missing aircraft. How's your fuel status? Lisa checked her instruments while her co-pilot, Captain Jake Morrison, monitored the emergency frequencies. They'd been searching for nearly 3 hours for a civilian aircraft that had gone missing 2 days earlier. A Cessna 172 with 2 hunters aboard who'd failed to return from their expedition. Tower. This is Rescue 1. Fuel is at 60%. We can continue search operations for another 90 minutes before we need to consider return to base. The missing aircraft should have been easy to spot against the white landscape, but the Alaskan wilderness had a way of swallowing things whole. Lisa had conducted dozens of search and rescue operations in her 8 years stationed at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, and she knew that time was their enemy. In these temperatures, survival time was measured in hours, not days. Lisa, I'm picking up a faint emergency beacon, bearing 020. Jake called out over the intercom. It's weak, but it's definitely there. Lisa banked the helicopter toward the signal, following the terrain as it rose into a narrow valley she'd never seen on any of her sectional charts. The GPS showed nothing but blank wilderness, but there, carved into the mountainside, was what appeared to be an airstrip. Jake, are you seeing this? Her co-pilot leaned forward, studying the unexpected runway through his helmet-mounted display. That's not on any of our charts, Lisa. And look at those lights. Someone's been maintaining this place. Lisa set the Pave Hawk down at the far end of the mysterious airstrip, her rotor wash kicking up clouds of snow that sparkled in the late afternoon light. As the rotor spun down, she could see several aircraft parked in what appeared to be camouflaged hangars built into the mountainside. This doesn't make sense, Jake muttered, unbuckling his harness. We're supposed to know about every airfield in Alaska, especially ones this remote. Before Lisa could respond, 3 figures emerged from the nearest hangar, moving toward their helicopter with purposeful strides. They wore military flight suits, but something about their appearance seemed off. The uniforms looked dated, and there was something about their movements that made Lisa's instincts scream danger. Major Thompson, Captain Morrison, welcome to Altitude Zero. The voice belonged to a tall man with graying hair and Colonel's eagles on his flight suit. He looked familiar, but Lisa couldn't place where she'd seen him before. Colonel. Lisa left the question hanging as she and Jake approached the mysterious officer. Colonel David Reeves, formerly of the 22nd Rescue Squadron. Though officially, I died in a training accident 18 months ago. Lisa's blood ran cold. She remembered Colonel Reeves. He'd been her squadron commander before his supposed death in a helicopter crash. She'd attended his funeral, had seen his wife weeping over a closed casket. That's impossible. You're dead. I was at your memorial service. Colonel Reeves smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Death is a useful cover story, Major. It allows certain operations to continue without the scrutiny of congressional oversight committees or nosy journalists. Jake's hand moved instinctively toward his sidearm, but Lisa caught his eye and shook her head slightly. They were outnumbered and in unknown territory. Their best chance was to gather information and find a way to report what they'd discovered. What kind of operations are we talking about, Colonel? Colonel Reeves led them into the main hangar, where Lisa counted at least a dozen aircraft, everything from military helicopters to civilian planes to aircraft she didn't recognize. All bore false registration numbers, or no markings at all. Welcome to the most successful covert operation in Air Force history, Reeves said, his voice echoing in the vast underground space. For the past 5 years, We've been conducting off-the-books missions throughout the Arctic region, intelligence gathering, asset recovery, elimination of threats to national security. Lisa noticed other personnel moving through the hangar, men and women in military uniforms, all supposedly dead, according to official records. How many of you are there? I'm talking about protecting our country by any means necessary, Major. Sometimes that requires making difficult choices that others don't have the stomach for. As they walked deeper into the facility, Lisa, the missing aircraft we were searching for, Lisa said suddenly. Where are the hunters? Colonel Reeves stopped walking. They saw too much, Major. Just like you have. Lisa and Jake found themselves locked in what had once been a storage room, the metal door secured from the outside. Through a small window, they could see the hangar where their helicopter sat under guard. We have to get word back to Elmendorf, Jake whispered, checking his radio. No signal. They must have some kind of jamming system. Lisa was examining the room methodically, looking for any means of escape. Jake, think about this logically. A facility this size, with this many personnel, doesn't exist without support from high levels of command. We might not know who to trust even if we get out of here. Are you suggesting we don't try to escape? I'm suggesting we need proof of what we've seen before we can report it. Otherwise, we disappear just like Colonel Reeves and all the others supposedly did. Their conversation was interrupted by footsteps in the corridor outside. The door opened to reveal a woman Lisa recognized, Captain Amy Chen, another pilot who had allegedly died in a training accident 6 months earlier. Major Thompson, Colonel Reeves wants to see you in his office. Alone. Lisa followed Captain Chen through corridors carved from the mountain itself, passing rooms filled with equipment she'd never seen before. The scale of the operation was staggering. This facility had been under construction for years. Colonel Reeves's office was surprisingly normal, with military awards on the walls and family photos on his desk. It was a jarring reminder that these people had once been normal service members, with families and lives outside the military. Sit down, Lisa. We need to talk about your future. You have 2 choices, Major, Colonel Reeves said, settling behind his desk. You can join us, fake your own death, and continue serving your country in ways that make a real difference. Or you can become another tragic training accident. Lisa kept her expression neutral, despite the fear coursing through her veins. What makes you think I'd be interested in becoming a ghost? Because you're exactly the kind of pilot we need. Experienced, skilled, and willing to do what's necessary to protect American interests. Plus, you've seen our operation now. We can't simply let you return to your normal life. And, Captain Morrison, he's a good pilot, but he lacks your flexibility. Unfortunately, he'll have to remain here permanently, one way or another. Lisa felt anger building inside her chest. You're talking about murdering an American service member. I'm talking about protecting a vital national security operation. Sometimes that requires difficult decisions. Through the window behind Colonel Reeves, Lisa could see the runway where their helicopter sat. If she could reach it, she might be able to get Jake and escape before the facility's personnel could stop them. I need time to think about this, she said finally. You have until midnight, Major. That's when the next supply flight arrives, and we'll need to know whether to prepare 1 body bag or 2. Back in their makeshift prison, Lisa quickly outlined her observations to Jake in whispers, knowing their conversation was probably being monitored. The guard rotation changes every 4 hours, she said quietly. There are always 2 guards on the helicopter, but they're positioned to watch for external threats, not internal ones. What about fuel? Even if we reach the Pavehawk, we need enough juice to get back to Elmendorf. Lisa had considered this. I noticed they've been refueling aircraft from underground tanks. Military-grade aviation fuel. If we can reach our bird, we should have enough to make it home. And then what? Report to our commanding officer, who might be part of this conspiracy. We go directly to the FBI. This is way beyond military jurisdiction now. Their escape attempt came during the midnight shift change, when the facility's attention was focused on the incoming supply aircraft, a unmarked C-130 that landed without lights. Lisa had noticed that the hangar guards tended to gather near the main doors during aircraft operations, leaving blind spots near the maintenance areas. Moving silently through the shadows, they reached their helicopter just as the supply plane's engines spun down. Lisa began the startup sequence while Jake kept watch, both of them knowing they'd have only minutes before their absence was discovered. Guards are moving toward the main hangar, Jake reported. We're clear for now. The Pavehawk's engines came online with their familiar whine, but Lisa knew the sound would alert the entire facility within seconds. Hold on, Jake. This is going to get interesting fast. Altitude 0 erupted into chaos as Lisa pulled the helicopter into the air, emergency lights flooding the airstrip as personnel scrambled to respond to the escape attempt. Through her helmet display, she could see armed personnel racing toward other aircraft. They're launching pursuit, Jake called out, monitoring the radio frequencies. 2 helicopters, gaining fast. Lisa pushed the Pavehawk to its maximum speed, following the mountain valleys toward Elmendorf Air Base while weaving between peaks to break radar lock. Behind them, the pursuing aircraft were closing the distance, their newer models giving them a speed advantage. Warning shots, Jake reported as tracer rounds streaked past their aircraft. They're trying to force us down, not destroy us. Copy that. Hold on. Lisa dropped into a narrow canyon, using the terrain to mask their heat signature while pushing the helicopter beyond its normal operational limits. The Pavehawk shuddered as she pulled maximum power from the engines, but the aircraft responded like the thoroughbred it was. Lost visual on pursuit, Jake reported. I think we're clear. But their celebration was premature. As they approached Elmendorf's airspace, Lisa's radio crackled with an official-sounding voice. Rescue 1, this is Elmendorf Tower. You are ordered to land immediately at coordinates I'm transmitting. Failure to comply will result in you being declared hostile. Lisa looked at Jake, both of them realizing the conspiracy might reach further than they'd imagined. Jake, I think we're on our own. Instead of landing at Elmendorf, Lisa diverted to Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport, where she requested emergency landing clearance and immediate contact with FBI authorities. Within hours, they were sitting in a secure conference room with federal agents, recounting their impossible story. Special Agent Sarah Martinez listened intently, taking notes while her partner recorded the entire conversation. Major Thompson, what you're describing would require coordination between multiple levels of military command, significant funding, and complete operational secrecy. That's not easy to accomplish. Agent Martinez, I know how it sounds, but I've seen the facility, the personnel, the equipment. This is real, and it's happening right now. We'll need more than your testimony to move forward. Do you have any physical evidence? Jake reached into his flight suit and pulled out a small object, a GPS device he'd managed to palm from one of Altitude Zero's aircraft. This should have coordinates, flight logs, maybe communication frequencies. Agent Martinez examined the device carefully. This could be very helpful. We'll have our technical team analyze it immediately. 3 days later, Lisa and Jake found themselves aboard an FBI helicopter approaching the coordinates where Altitude 0 had been hidden. But as they crested the ridge and looked down into the valley, they saw only empty wilderness. There's nothing here, Agent Martinez said, studying the terrain through binoculars. No runway, no structures, no signs of human activity. Lisa stared at the empty valley in disbelief. The facility that had housed dozens of personnel and aircraft had vanished without a trace, leaving only pristine Alaskan wilderness. They knew we'd come back, Jake said quietly. They had contingency plans. 6 months later, Lisa sat in her new office at the Pentagon, where she'd been assigned after her experiences in Alaska. The official report had classified the Altitude 0 incident as a training exercise gone wrong, explaining away the GPS evidence as corrupted data from a malfunctioning device. But Lisa knew the truth. Altitude 0 was real, and it was still out there somewhere, operating in the shadows with the tacit approval of people whose names she'd never know. The missing hunters had never been found, and Colonel Reeves remained officially dead despite their encounter. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Captain Morrison entered, carrying a manila folder marked classified. Lisa, you need to see this. It's a report from a search and rescue team in Montana. They found evidence of another facility, another group of supposedly dead personnel conducting off-the-books operations. Lisa took the folder, knowing that her fight to expose the truth was far from over. Somewhere in the vast wilderness of America, the ghosts of Altitude 0 were still flying their dark missions, protected by the very system they'd sworn to serve. "Jake, I think we're going to be very busy." Outside her window, aircraft took off and landed in the normal rhythm of military operations. But Lisa now knew that not everything was as it seemed. In the shadows between official policy and national security, another war was being fought by soldiers who didn't exist, for reasons that couldn't be acknowledged. And somewhere in the frozen wilderness of Alaska, an empty valley held secrets that would never see the light of day. And so ends the story of Major Lisa Thompson and the mystery of Altitude Zero. A reminder that in the world of military service, not all battles are fought in the open, and not all heroes are remembered by history. At heart of a soldier, we understand that duty sometimes requires difficult choices, and that the line between protecting our country and protecting the truth is often thinner than we'd like to believe. Thank you for joining us today. And remember, in the vast wilderness of service to our nation, some stories may never be fully told. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon and your heart open to the courage of those who serve in shadow and in light.